Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakdown Podcast YouTube channel. My name's Corey, and with me once again to break down the latest episode of Superman and Lois, it's Vic.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm right next to you, man.
Oh, over there.
There you go. You got it. Good job.
So before we do break this down, we do want to let you know we have a live show we do every Tuesday. That's at twitch.tv/MillerKing_51, where we break down other TV shows and movies, as well as video games as well too. Currently, we're on the show talking about Cobra Kai in their latest season. Pretty soon we've got Moon Knight coming up, and I'm sure there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be a Star Wars show.
Very shortly, we have Kenobi coming.
Yes, that one will be coming up as well too. So be sure to come by at 7 p.m. ish Eastern on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/MillerKing_51. Now, one other thing before we do this, if you haven't already, please be sure to hit the red subscribe button down below, and that way you can get our videos every time we release one, and make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Now, Vic.
Yes, sir.
Let's break this down.
So this week's episode of Superman and Lois, I got it right. Thank you very much. I've been practicing that on the side.
That's a first.
I've been practicing that on the side. It was an interesting episode. It was very much like
a bad episode.
Well, I mean, interesting as in the fact that it was a very much a filler episode. Like, if you need a definition of a filler episode, this is exactly what this was.
For sure. Hold on one sec. We talk about this for those that are new. Every season around episodes 5, 6, and 7, there's a lull, and it's all stuff you could sit there and go, this is just filler, it's pointless. And it's because the writers can't figure out what to do. They know where they want to start it, they know where they want to end it, but in the middle it's like, what do we do? I don't know, throw in some garbage.
But this is where the story is. Like, this is
show.
where the story is supposed to be. You have like the build up, and now the story is supposed to emerge, and you kind of see that that's what's going on here, but this particular episode, not their best work. In this episode, we'll start talking about the boys. Let's get Jonathan and Jordan out of the way real quick. Right off the start, Grandpa shows up, and Jordan's like, oh no, they invited Grandpa to the quinceañera, and he's like, no, he's here for me. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I kind of talked Grandpa into training me, so that when Dad needs my help, I can be ready. And he's like, yeah, that doesn't seem like a good idea. And at that point, Grandpa's like, why did you tell your brother? Like, I told you to keep this a secret between us so that we didn't have an issue with your mom and your dad. And he's like, whatever. And of course, Jonathan is like, why is everybody leaving me out of everything?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, you could see kind of a, you could almost see where his turn as a bad guy is coming. Like, it's starting right here. Yeah. Do I really think it's going to go that way? I don't think so.
Right.
Especially considering we've got set pictures that have been released. But I'm not going to talk about those on here.
Let's not talk about those yet.
But that being said, this is getting tiresome. We do this almost every episode. Somebody tells him that they're going to go do something without him, and he pulls the woe is me card, even though he's been trying to get his brother to go do things and not be so, mopey or whatever. And now that it's happening, it's like, come on, man.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here for 1 second, though, because once they start getting into the process, he's like, hey, you could hang around with us. Because he was going to walk away. He was walking away. And Grandpa was like,
away with the Hulk music playing.
Grandpa was like, you could come with us because that'll give us a baseline as to what Jordan's abilities are. And they were still making it all about Jordan, but he's like, all right, fine. So he comes and they're doing push-ups and they did like 50 in a minute. And he's like, yeah, this is pretty good. And he's like, yeah, but your brother's better than this. He should be able to do more. And of course, Jordan's like, okay. And so when they go back down,
he should have. He wasn't using his speed.
Yeah, when he starts to go back down to do more push-ups, Grandpa's like, you know what? Why don't you go get your brother a drink? Yeah, non-super. That's the point that I was like, oh, poor Jonathan. Like, that's the point I kind of felt bad with him. And that's why I'm playing those at this point. Because he goes in to go get the water, and as he's about to walk out, he's like, you know what? I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them that they're wrong about me. I'm like, no, they're not wrong about you, kid. You're using you're basically the Russian skater using like enhancing drugs to get the gold. So he does a few puffs of
Allegedly.
his super juice, and he gets out there and he's like Jordan's boxing on a bag full of corn, which I'm like, oh, they do farm. So
No, that's been left there for the last 20 years.
right. From when his dad and his mom were actually farmers.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
he's, punching the corn bag and he's like, if dad ever gets attacked by a corn-based alien, then maybe Jordan can do something. I was like,
that actually was funny.
Good on you, kid. And he's like, well, let me spar with him. And I'm like, this is going to end badly. Your arm's been broken once because of this whole situation. So they get into it and he ends up knocking the piss out of Jordan. And Jordan's like, what the hell? And come to find out, they now know that he has superpowers, but obviously they don't know that it's because he's taking XK in order to get them.
Yeah, they find out. He finds out later when they're in the room, they're talking, and he starts to get mad, and his eyes glow red. He's like, "You got powers too," so he's all happy, but at the same time doesn't know.
Well, 2 seconds before that, you've got powers too. He's like, "I don't want to talk about it. Leave me alone. Stop bothering me." And then he goes red-eyed, and he's like, "You have powers?" And he's like, "Oh." He's like, yeah, well, let's talk about this, but don't say anything right now. I want to talk about it later. Like 2 seconds ago, you didn't want to talk about it at all. Like, I understand the teenage, like, hormone thing, and apparently it's super aggressive when you've got superpowers, but come on. All right, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's no different. At this point, he's no different than Bane. He's just got a different way of doing it, so.
This storyline, I didn't care about it. There's only one storyline in this episode, and we'll get to it later.
All right, so let's move on to the quinceañera, which a question was answered that you had, sir, and you're like, I didn't even know that guy was Spanish, and it's because his last name is Cushing, and apparently when his grandfather came to Smallville, he couldn't get work under his name Cortez. So he changed his name to Cushing, and I'm like, how does Cortez turn to Cushing? Like, is that the definition of Cortez? When you translate it?
They wanted to make it sound more white, I guess.
I guess, but as the Cushings, he was able to, obviously build a life for his family in Smallville, and Sarah is going to reclaim, because at her quinceañera she's able to make adult decisions, and as an adult she is deciding to reclaim the Cortez name for herself, in honor of her family and her father, who she has become just completely enamored with. And of course, as soon as you see this coming, I was like, oh, Corey's gonna be pissed. As soon as this happened, because you're like, why can't they just let this guy have a happy life with his family? And I was like, this is going to cause a problem.
No, the whole name changing thing didn't bother me.
No, I'm talking about what we're getting ready to get to. Yeah,
it's what comes later. I'm just like, fuck, man, because it's something. It's what I've talked about previously. Go ahead.
But this buildup of like all of this, I knew something bad was going to happen as soon as they started building up all this love and affection for each other, and they're hugging and dancing and kissing and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, this is a really nice moment. Then he gets that text message, and I was like, and it's going to piss Corey off in about 3, 2, switch to the quinceañera. And the daughter is, she's got her dress on and everything. She's, they're having it at the barn at the Kent house. Everything seems to be nice. For whatever reason, Lana decided, I'm going to invite my running opponent to this thing to be nice. I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, that's not even a thing. If you don't like the guy, you don't have to send him an invitation.
You know what's funny too is they sent him an invitation, but couldn't send the girl, John Henry's daughter, an invitation.
Right.
Because they literally pointed it out and said,
no, it wasn't John Henry's daughter. It was his girlfriend. She said, "I could. Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't give a ticket to her because of my court." It was Jonathan's girlfriend.
She mentioned the name. When she mentioned the name, I thought it was John Henry's daughter. No. She's not in this episode at all.
No, because she stayed with her father. She's still with her father at the hospital. So apparently,
but either way, she couldn't send her an invitation because of the amount of people. But we can invite the person, political opponent.
Yeah, because
That makes
this
total
isn't
sense.
supposed to be political, but she's definitely playing a political game. Like, oh, I'm such a nice person. I invited my political opponent to my
Yeah.
daughter's quinceanera. I'm like, bad idea. But um, she's there. She's dancing. She's having a good time. Everyone seems to be jovially happy. She ends up breaking
I
away
didn't
with.
see. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see many kids from the high school there.
There were
It seemed
little.
like there were a lot of adults
There
there.
were, and then that's actually a thing because the idea is for all of the adults to come and witness her becoming an adult, and then she's got what's called the she has what's called her court, so she has all of her friends and her sister as her court, and those are the kids that are there, and then obviously her boyfriend would be there and that kind of thing. So
I didn't
it's
see a
part of
court.
the they were there. If you look, they were there. If you were to watch it again, if you look over to the far side, especially when she does the mother daughter dance, there's a whole bunch of girls in the same dress in the corner. That's her court. So that there were a bunch of kids there. They were just they were kept off screen mostly
The
to the
coverage for the
corners.
episode was horrible.
Yeah,
What you're
they
saying.
kept them to the corners and off to the sides, but they were there. But she finally gets enough of it, and she sneaks off with Jordan, and they sit down and they have a kiss. And Jordan's getting frisky. I'm like, dude, this is not the time, but whatever. Um,
Awkward.
Look, you're becoming a woman. How much? Like, oh my
Oh boy,
god,
don't,
dude.
no, 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 no.
Like, such a horrible line.
Yeah, and then as they're sitting out there, her dad comes out because he gets a text from the same
The
person from the
bartender
bar,
chick. Yep.
and she's like, "I told my friend," and blah blah blah, and they got in a big. They got into it. Turns out that she told her friend about what had happened, and her friend ended up going to uh, the opponent,
The mayor. Yeah.
the mayor,
The current mayor.
and getting paid off there. So now he knows.
She's like, she thought she could make some money off of the information. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean,
So,
she's
but
like,
the
well,
bad
times are
thing
tough
is,
right now. I'm like, yeah, but you're that much of a dirtbag. Okay.
yeah. But the thing of it is, his daughter and Jordan hear the whole thing,
Yep.
and so now he goes back in, not knowing this.
That they were between two trucks as he walked by.
Yeah, and and he tries to play it cool, and turns out that she ends up leaving, or she ends up crying during the dance, and she tells her mom. She's like, or she tells him to tell her mom what she
Well,
just
like,
found
on
out.
top of that, I'm like, hey, bartender chick, it's his daughter's quinceanera. I understand you want to tell him, but at that point, like, why would you do it right then? Like, don't do
Yeah.
it right there.
How did you know
Like,
where to go? You're not even from that town.
right. Like, if that's the case, like, you've been texting him, be like, hey, 911, mayor knows about us, and then call it quit. That way he get the text or something. Like, so he would know it was an emergency and contact her back. Like, not just, like, ignore her and then end up, like, having her show up at the quinceanera. I'm like, come on. That's ridiculous. But she does. And he goes back inside for the father-daughter dance, not knowing that she now knows the skeletons in his closet. And he walks up to her for the dance, and he starts to do the dance with her. And he's just playing it off like everything's fine. She's just like looking down at his shoes the entire dance. And I'm like, oh, remember this girl tried to hurt herself at one point? And now she just found this really bad information out. She's going to go back into a bad place. And as she's sitting there and they're dancing, Lana's like, she's having a panic attack. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. And then she just like starts screaming at him. And
I threw a flag on that line.
Okay.
Because she's like, oh, she's having a panic attack. I'm like, what makes you think that? She's just sitting there dancing with her head down. That doesn't mean she's having a panic attack.
Well,
there's nothing. There's been no indication.
I mean, you don't know how, like, her reaction from what she was when she walked out earlier to what she's doing now, she can clearly see something's wrong. You can look at your kid and tell something's wrong. But when you have a kid who's gone to the extents and the lengths that she has, the parents tend to pay more attention to the small things. And that reaction that she had, not looking up, not making eye contact with anybody, like, you can tell instantly that something's wrong. And she's like, she's having a panic attack. And it's I mean, that part I think was probably one of the more realistic moments in the dang thing, to me at least. But she walks on and she's like, "Tell her what you did. Tell her what you did." I was like, "Well, good on her for actually like, I'll tell you later." Like, you know what I mean? I always complain about them just holding on to information rather than saying something. But in this case, she was flat out just like, "You tell her what you did. Tell her what you did." And she's like, now the part that I call a flag on is Lana goes, "You mean the girl from the bar? I thought you were just going there to blow off some steam." I'm like, no one said anything about a girl from the bar, so Lana already knew.
Unless, unless he's told her about this in the past, and with her daughter saying something about it, she just automatically assumes that it's the same person.
But the lie is you just told me you were just going there to blow off some steam. She's saying that he had an affair with her, but she knew exactly what it was and who it was. Like, how would she know that unless she already knew what was going on? She knew he was having an affair, and she just didn't say anything. She was playing like, "Oh, everything's fine." Like that line tells me that she already knew what was happening. She wasn't unaware.
She assumed.
Right. She wasn't unaware of what was going on. But she's like, "We can't do this now." He's like, and she runs out. She goes out after her, and she's like, "We have to finish. You have to finish this. This isn't about your dad. This isn't about me. It's about you. This is your day, your night." So she comes back in and she gives her speech about her being a great woman and blah 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 blah, and everything. And they finish off, the quinceañera, even though like the dad is just standing there like, "Oh crap." Did you see the look on the mayor's face? They did a quick swipe. They did a quick swipe of the crowd, and the mayor is just sitting there with like Cheshire cat grin on his face. Like, wow. I knew he knew this was going on, and obviously he was going to use it as a thing to get at them. But to have this happen live in front of him in like full Technicolor, which I'm sure somebody was recording, and I'm sure somewhere he's going to use that as opposition video in a campaign ad or something. I was just like, ooh, that is a nasty look on his face.
Well, this whole scene ends. If you watch, you see her dad slip out the back door after the whole speech.
Right.
And Lois and Clark have been there the whole time, and he gets a message from his mom, right? Yeah. And we'll get to why he's getting that message in a moment. But then he takes off. Here's one thing I noted. Okay. And that's why I'm bringing it up now. Lois says to him,
"Don't let anybody see you.
Don't let anybody see you."
Right.
Who did we just see leave the barn?
Yes.
The dad. My guess is maybe in next week's episode, we're going to see we're going to find out that he saw Clark leave, and now has a pretty good inkling that Superman, or that Clark is Superman. That's my guess, because of that line being in there. Don't let anybody see. Why else would she say that?
Yeah,
he's been doing this for years.
Yeah, that's true. But then he's not been doing it when there's like a million people standing outside and around his barn when he takes off. But like I can see that being an issue. I can see that being an issue. I'm just kind of trying to see how that would help.
You're trying to think of storyline where that would help.
Yeah, and the only thing I can come up with right off the top of my head with you saying that is after he gets bombed by the mayor, obviously, right? He's going to get just annihilated by the mayor. She's going to get annihilated by the mayor. He's going to go, "I know who you are. You need to help her. I need Superman to endorse her for mayor." That's what my brain says. Like, if that's the case, like if he decides to go like full nuclear option, the best way for him to make everyone like his wife as a mayor would be for her to have a friendship with Superman. And if he's like, "I'm going to tell him who you are unless you do this," like that's the dick thing to do. But I could see that coming from as a consequence of this whole thing. So it's a possibility. I mean, I almost wouldn't mind seeing that play out, just to see if Superman actually does it. You know what I mean? Like, would he actually?
He'd spend the episode fighting his morals and
right.
What should I do? This doesn't sound right. I don't know. That's the way it'll play out.
Yeah,
Does
but then
it?
he'll end up doing it because there's a reason that's better off
Yeah,
for the town. So
there'll be a bigger reason.
Lana is
He
the
has to
better
do it.
choice for the town, so I'm gonna do it just to stop his whatever. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it should be interesting. Um, so
That brings
our
us to our third storyline
yeah,
involving Lois.
Lois is. I'm still not sure. Obviously, when we left Lois and Chrissy, they were in a bad spot. Chrissy wasn't talking to her, wanted nothing to do with her, was mad at her. And Lois is just doing the Lois thing where, like, oh, it happened, it's over, let's move on. And Chrissy's like, I don't work that way. Like we're supposed to be partners, and you're treating me like an employee, and I don't like it. So I'm gonna go off and do my own thing. You do whatever you want to do. I'll talk to you later. And we know that Chrissy is going to see Allie. Um, meanwhile,
Hold on, but so with this though, with her going to see Allie at the very beginning of the episode, we got a flashback to the 70s.
the cold open. Yep.
And it was a younger version of Allie, and it turned out that her dad died in some kind of, I don't know, freak
accident.
And in order for her to get the inheritance, she has to keep hold of this gem that everybody's like, oh no, or one guy says you can't do it, don't do it, and like the lawyer is like pushing it on him. So obviously he knows the deal behind it.
Obviously he's in the cult.
Yeah.
And her brother. Her brother's the one that's with her. It's her brother. And he's treating her like a kid. Obviously, he's like, yeah, well, we're gonna get through this. Everything will be okay. He hands her a hard candy, which is kind of like the symbolism of like an adult to a kid kind of like thing. And as the lawyer is telling her, he's like, in order for you to get the inheritance, the money, the house, all this stuff, which is all left to you, Allie, not your brother, because obviously the brother doesn't believe. He's not part of the cult. He wants it to end. And she's like, you have to take care of this. And he opens up a box, and it is almost the same pendant that Bizarro Superman has on when he comes out of the ground.
Yeah, and that's what I thought it was.
The bottom half of it, like the one that Bizarro has, is a full like diamond shape. And the one she has just has like a white bezel across the top of it, holding the gem in. And as she's looking at the lawyer, she grabs an empty vase that just happened to be sitting there for some reason. I don't know why a vase like that would be sitting there like that, but you don't just
have random empty vases just sitting around.
No,
okay, well, not here.
She spits. She spits her hard candy into the vase, which symbolizes her ending her childhood. And when she does that, the lawyer's like, good. And he's like, no, you don't want to do this. This ruined our life. It killed our father. We can break the cycle. And he's like, you get out. And he just walks out, leaves his sister with the fucking cult,
and then of course, then we come back to present day. And like Vic said, that was the same jewel.
Right.
And it's the jewel that she got back. Because I'm trying to think of how that worked, how that played. No. I take
no. It's not the same. It's not the same one. Yeah. It's one like it, because Major General Anderson has the one that Bizarro what's his name, Trip took back to him, or whatever his name is. Yeah, Speedy Gonzalez.
Yes. So anyhow, he what's her name shows up for this meeting with Chrissy, right? Chrissy. Yep. And I'm sitting here listening to her dialogue, and I'm going, did she not listen to anything in that Lois conversation with her sister?
Nope.
Because, at first you could almost say that last week's episode with her yelling and saying how bad Lois was, you'd think that maybe she just didn't understand what was being told to her.
Mm-hmm.
But now here we are a few days from that, and she still got the same attitude. It's like, I don't understand.
I think the idea behind...
It's pretty obvious from their conversation that Lois was trying to be the good person and actually saying, Allie is not good. She is a bad person, right. and giving examples, but nobody's listening. Chrissy, out of all those people in that room, because they were probably already entranced,
Right.
and Chrissy wasn't. She should have been the one to be like, yeah, wait, what's going on here? She should have had her doubts. And in this episode, she kind of does have those doubts, but still goes through it. And she's like, and she drinks some tea, which I thought was funny. She's like, "Where'd you get this?" Oh,
It's
at the
just like the
lobby.
lobby.
Um, but but then after a few seconds, she's like, "Wait, I'm feeling weird." She's like, "You drugged me." Oh, you're quick.
Yeah.
You're
So
quick.
the
If you just would have listened to Lois,
the
you
interaction between
probably
her and
wouldn't be there.
Lois. I think the issue is the interaction between her and Lois isn't that she doesn't believe Lois. She's mad because Lois didn't give her all of the information that she knew, even though she's her partner. And if she had have given Chrissy, all of the information, what Allie is doing right now never would have worked. That's the problem. And it's still a problem because she still, even after that, didn't say, hey, because she's like, why didn't you tell me the whole story? And she's like, well, I didn't think it was important. And she's
It
like,
wasn't relevant.
but it was relevant. That's the kicker. Like if she had said, Chrissy, look, I took stuff out of the story because it made my sister sound crazy and I was trying to protect her, not trying to make Allie look bad. I was trying to protect my sister. This is what actually happened, and shared that information with her when Allie showed it to her and said, "Oh, she's been lying the whole time. What else is she lying about?" She's just planting seeds of distrust between her and what's called. And it's not like she didn't do the same thing with and like she said, like you did the same thing with the Tal Row incident, right? She's with Morgan Edge. You didn't tell me all of the information, and look what happened. And it's true. But Lois knows that if you don't tell Chrissy what's going on, Chrissy does stupid things like going into a mine, following the bad guys, trying to get the story. And that's what she's doing right now. She may have some doubts as to what Allie is saying, but she wants to get the story, and she wants to do the story the way she wants to do it, not leaving stuff out like Lois did. So, like you said, she gets there. She has a good cup of tea, which I'm gonna have to check out the tea in the hotel lobbies from now on. And she's like, "Oh, this is so good," and she's talking to her and kind of explaining to her what's going on. And then she's like, she does that whole that tropish wobble, and then the vision goes in and out. And then she's like, "You drugged me." It's like, "Yep, you got roofied. You're in trouble." Like at this point, it's too late to realize you're in trouble.
Yeah, nice job.
And she passes out. And again, we get to see the actual process, which is what Lois was reporting on. These people die. They literally are dying. There's just a chance that they can come back. And if they come back, then they get to tell what they've seen, which makes her craziness even more plausible. But if they die, oh well, let's find another rube to con into this. The problem being, well, not the problem, but Chrissy came back, and she now knows that what she's saying is true, but she's scared to death of what she just saw. And that's the same reaction that Lois has when she comes to the realization that maybe what she's talking about is real, because I've seen the manifestation of what she's talking about, and that's Bizarro Superman. So she's putting those two things together.
And the thing of it is too, she comes back because she uses that jewel that we saw at the beginning of the episode. She's able to come back from it, and like Vic said, that she explained some of the things, which is making it start to sound like, wait a minute. Because she said that everybody was kind of the opposite of the way they are. It's like, oh, and she mentioned Bizarro. She said a Bizarro world. Huh, that's weird.
Yeah.
So now we're starting to
see. And Lois mentions Bizarro, a Bizarro version of you. They keep using the word Bizarro several times in a couple different episodes, just so we know. Even though they won't refer to him as Bizarro.
Right. So now that we have Lois's storyline starting to mix in with Superman's line,
right?
Our storyline, we go from there over to Superman's. And where did we start out with him?
Hold on.
He goes to see.
Well, no. What happens first is he goes to see Major General Anderson.
No, first he saw the dude that the super speed kid.
Tag. Yeah, he did see Tag. Yeah. That's just, he's like, He's like,
That
yeah.
was
He's
just
like, I hope you're feeling better.
yeah. I mean, nothing really came of it. He
Yeah.
was like, there was really no point to the scene.
It was
Then he
basically
does
just to tell him that he gave the general has the
right.
amulet. That was
Yeah.
basically it. And
So
he
then he
ends up
goes to
going to see the general.
and
And good.
yeah, I was gonna say. So Anderson tells him you're not gonna get it.
Right.
He's like, "You bring me this other Superman, then you can have it." I'm like, "Well, that's the whole freaking point that he needs it is to find him."
Yeah, and not only that, but he told you 10 times, don't send those kids out there. They're going to get killed.
And what happened
And he's
to
like, yeah,
him?
well, he brought me the gem back. And he's like, how do I know you don't need it just to power yourself up and take over the world? It's like, you know that that's not the case. That's why you're
Yeah.
mad at him in the first place, is because he won't do your bidding as an American asset. You know that's not what's going on. He's like, well, every time you guys get together, then if there's power, yeah, of course there are, because it's two Supermen in one place.
Yeah.
Like, all the information you are giving back to him is the stuff that he gave you 2 episodes ago. So, like, whatever. He's like, well, bring me that Superman and then we'll talk. I'm like, what? So you can make a weapon out of him like you did with those kids that you got killed, by the way?
Again, bring you the Superman, okay, and then you can have it. Well, that's the only way
Yeah.
I can find him, so I can't actually do that.
Yeah, at that
you
point,
big
why do I
dummy.
need it?
Yeah,
But
like if I bring him to you, I don't need it.
it
You can keep
does it does give us this point now in this episode. We now know why he was trying to destroy that amulet. Because that amulet, he probably stole it from the Ali Alston in the Bizarro world. So that's why he has it, and that's why he's trying to destroy it. But let me get back to another point.
Sure.
So at the beginning of the episode, when Lois was arguing with Chrissy, she was going through her old records about Ali, and conveniently came across a video that showed the doctor, the scientist from the mine who knocked out John Henry the first time and was obviously working for Ali. He's like, hold on, Doctor, whatever her face is, works for Ali. So she goes out there to check on her. And as she's walking up to the construction site, or to the mining offices, she has the girl's business card in her hand. And she looks at it and then walks in the building. I'm like, you know who she is. You know where she is. You've been to that mine like 900 times in these episodes already. Why did you need to look at that business card in order to find her?
It was for us, the viewers, so we knew who she was going to see.
We couldn't see the business card. It was just a red business card. You couldn't tell anything on it. I'm like, that was just a waste. It was a complete waste. So she walks in, and when she walks in, the office is just trashed. And she's looking for the doctor, and when she turns the corner, we see Bizarro is sitting there over her body, and he kind of does that glitchy like, ugh, and he flies out real quick, and she sees that he has literally like spun her head almost backwards on her body, and I was like, that's gruesome.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably one of the
CW
gruesomest thing in a CW show I've seen in a while.
For a CW show, I was really surprised by that.
Yeah.
Not that I cared, but I got to say this about Bizarro.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really I got to applaud not only the special effects team, but the actor as well too.
Yeah.
Because just in this, I think in this episode alone, I've really come around on him being Superman. Not that I was ever against it. I was just like, it is what it is.
Oh, you're talking about him playing Superman. I got you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then in this episode, and especially in the fight that's coming up between the two, I was like, you know what? I kind of am down with this actor as Superman. And not only that, I thought his portrayal of Bizarro was pretty good too, because now you've got him doing something not to be funny, but the total opposite of what he's used to doing,
right,
as Clark and Superman, and just those looks and those, it's just kind of like, he doesn't really do a
little
lot.
Quirks and like things that turn him from just being Superman into being Bizarro.
Yeah,
he does a really good job.
I really dug it, and we talked about on our show earlier this week regarding Henry Cavill as Superman, and saying how he is Superman. I'm not sure. Did we talk about it on the show, or was that offline? I don't remember.
I think it was on Overwatch.
I think Henry Cavill I said Henry Cavill is perfect for Superman. He's perfect that way, and but I think Tyler, is it Heckler or
Yeah.
Locklear or something like
Yeah.
that. I think he could give Henry Cavill a run for his money for as a movie Superman.
Yeah.
I think
And
so.
you when you look at it too, like you look at who plays Superman in the CW on the TV show and who plays Flash in CW and then Flash in the movies, and you're looking at him going like, why don't you just use these characters? Like it's not crazy to do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
Superman is not supposed to be this superimposing monstrous man. It's just supposed to be your average everyday dude who has superpowers that saves the world. And I really feel like he plays a better version of what Superman is supposed to be, as opposed to Henry Cavill's just behemoth-sized Superman. And
Yeah,
I think that's really the only difference between us. I think Henry Cavill does a great job, but I think that they're just like, we need a superimposing, big, burly guy to play Superman, when that's really not what Superman is. If you look at the
it's
original archetype of Superman, he's just a dude. Like, he's literally just an
yeah.
average
I
guy.
I think the
So,
difference between the two is like Henry plays Clark like he's playing Superman playing Clark, whereas Tyler is playing Superman as Clark playing Superman. Like
right.
they're going in opposite
Yeah,
directions.
yeah.
Like he's
It's
playing
it's the whole
like Henry
DC
Cavill's
trope.
playing Superman first,
Yeah.
and then now he's like, oh, I've got to hide as Clark, but I'm still Superman. So
It's the same thing that I've always said about DC. The difference between DC and Marvel is DC superheroes are superheroes pretending to be normal, and Marvel is normal people trying to hide that they're superheroes. And
mm,
they do this backwards thing, and in this case I think he's doing that better than what I
yes,
like you said, what you consider Cavill doing. But um Lois goes to him, he's like, look, he was there, he was in the same place I was, he's obviously following the same trail I'm following. If that's the case, then his next stop, which would be mine, is to find Allie. So
no,
they
because they found a piece of paper on the floor that had Allie's picture on it,
right,
and so that was their inclination, which led Lois to finding out the hotel room that Chrissy was at. I
which
don't
is
know
the
how
same
she.
hotel room that she was in, by the way, just so if you didn't
Yeah,
notice.
and I'm not real sure how she had a key to get in, but I digress. She opens up the door, and they're like, "How
You
did
know,
you
I didn't
find
even
me?"
think about that. I did not even think about that.
Yeah, she just walked right on in. Like, how the hell do you have a key?
Huh.
Um,
Anyway.
it's really loose hotel people.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, yeah, I need a key for room 220. Oh, okay, here you go.
It's one of those old hotels that just still has the key, and the guy just didn't lock the door when he came in after he
Yeah.
walked back in. But um
So, but she shows up and she tries telling Chrissy, and Chrissy's, and they get into little words back and forth, and then Superman shows up, and he's like, and because Allie's like, oh, you want to show, thinking the whole fight is between her and Lois,
yeah,
but Lois is like, screw all that. This is bigger than you. Shut up.
yeah. And
And then
he's like, "You're
Superman
in
pops around.
danger." He's like, "You're in danger." She's like, "Yeah, the only danger in this room is her," referring to Lois.
Lois,
And
yeah.
she goes, "The only thing I'm afraid of in this room is Lois." And then freaking, he's like, he's coming,
He,
and
he pushes Allie out of the
yeah,
way, and as soon as he does, he gets drilled by Bizarro, who end up
through the wall.
going out one wall and probably about 50 states away. And
How do you pay that bill?
no, they walked out.
You rented
Yeah.
this room. It has a giant hole in the wall. You're paying for
Why
it.
is there a cutout shape on our wall that looks like Superman? Can you tell me
Who
that?
did this?
It's really weird. So that ends that part with Lois and Allie and Chrissy line. We don't see any more of that because everything
Well,
else is.
yes, but Chrissy did. But while this was all going on, she kind of like, she's like, Lois, this is real. Like, what she told me is real. And she's like,
Oh
yeah, I'm
yeah,
kind of getting to that point. And she's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I went to this whole other world and I was there. There is a whole nother person there. And Allie was there, but she's taken over the entire world, possibly. Like, she's not a good person. And Lois is like, Yeah, wench. That's what I've been
Yeah,
telling you the whole dang time.
that's
Like,
exactly what I was saying. I was literally
what?
saying, yeah, that's what she told you last week
Like,
in
way to
last week's
come
episode.
around.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it. I didn't know the details, but I knew there was something wrong, and I tried to tell you, but you didn't want to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Again. That's how
Yeah.
you ended up almost dying last season. And now you almost died. Actually, you did die this season. They just happened to bring you back. But so Superman and Bizarro, not called Bizarro, Superman and the other ends up inside of a warehouse somewhere because there's tons of those, and that's where they always end up fighting. Um, and
Less people.
yeah, they go at it. So, he's got flame breath, and he goes against Superman's freeze breath, cryo breath. He's got
And it
he's got
finally,
ice eye beams, and Superman's like, oh, this guy is me, just opposite. Like, oh
yeah.
my god.
Welcome. I'm glad everybody on this show is coming to realizations to things 3 episodes after the viewer has.
Like,
So
literally,
he
if
ends
you
up.
look at that guy, he looks just like you, but his logo, his Superman
It's
logo, is
backwards.
backwards. Thus, it's a mirror image of you. Go
Could we
figure.
possibly be opposite?
3 episodes later, so he takes him to Lara
He, he
L,
takes him to the fortress.
the
I
Desert
don't know.
Fortress of
The
Solitude,
desert, yeah, desert fortress of solitude.
which he's apparently
And
taken over for his brother.
yeah, so she's analyzing him. She's going to analyze him. That's when we fast forward in the episode to the quinceanera where he gets a call from his mom. He goes back and he has a discussion with Bizarro because she's been able to make him speak English somehow.
Well, in the fight, they end up back at the. He kind of has this revelation, like, oh, I know how I can stop him since he's the exact opposite of me. He takes him. He flies him back to the. Actually, he beats him back to the mine. Ends up breaking in the mine. Grabs 2 giant pieces of X kryptonite, and then starts beating Bizarro Superman down because apparently that X kryptonite is the exact opposite of actual kryptonite. It weakens him and he's able to take him over. Then he takes him to his mom, and his mom uses, I'm assuming, X kryptonite to create a force field around him, so she could study him. And upon studying him, she figures out what's going on, and she makes it so that he can speak normal English instead of speaking backwards, which is what he's been doing the entire time.
I was
That's why
trying
no
to
one can
tell if he
understand
was
him.
doing that earlier in the
Yeah.
episode, but it was really hard to tell.
Well, he didn't talk. He only said like 2 or 3 things at a time.
Yeah,
So it
that's why
didn't
it
really
was
give you a
hard to
chance to kind of make out what he was saying. And they weren't doing subtitles for it. But when he starts talking now they're doing subtitles.
tell. No,
when
they
he's
did
speaking.
subtitles.
The backwards speech?
Mm-hmm.
In this. But the other episodes when he was saying stuff, they didn't do
No.
it. In this episode, they did. That's what I'm saying. Like, this
Yeah.
episode, they decided to start doing the subtitles, which before they didn't, so that we could see that he was
Right.
just saying stuff backwards and we didn't know what he was saying. But he starts talking to him, and this is actually where I was like, oh, Corey's about to get mad. This is the part I was speaking about. Because as he's talking to Bizarro and he's giving him the rundown, Bizarro starts telling him that Allie Alston is a monster. She's destroying our world, blah, blah, blah. She's enslaved our entire people, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, here we go. They're going to turn him into a good guy. They're going to make him an anti-hero. And they're going to do that CW trope for the TV shows where they go,
I see what you're saying.
You're not that bad. I can just help you turn it around and you can be a good guy, kind of. So he is basically here. He has made this journey somehow. Why he had to come through the middle of the earth to do it? Because the way they make this play out is that mirror world is in the core of Earth. The way they're playing that out, like I don't quite understand it, but he's there to stop her.
I have a feeling they forgot where this character originally started from.
Yeah, well,
and so they're like, maybe I don't know, maybe they have different writers. And they're like, oh, we'll just make him. We'll just tie these two in together. These will work well. Oh yeah, that's great. That's great.
There's no explanation, and I don't think they're going to give us an explanation as to why he was coming up through the ground when he's from an
Yeah, that
alternate
doesn't.
dimension.
That makes zero sense.
Right. So, once he explains to him what's going on, it meshes with what Chrissy told Lois. So now we know that basically what this comes down to, once again, and this is why I was like, Corey's going to be mad. So when John Henry Irons shows up, he's the big bad beating the crap out of Superman, right? And episode by episode, Superman starts to get stronger and stronger and stronger and can finally take out John Henry Irons. And then he's fighting him, throughout the first episode as the bad guy. Then he finds out, oh, he's not that bad. He's just from another universe where I'm a really bad guy and he's just trying to kill me to save my world, which makes no sense, by the way. So it's okay. Then this thing comes into... He comes out of the ground and he is just the mass monster murdering Superman killer of the world, beating the crap out of Superman nonstop and winning almost every other fight until Superman punches him up in the air and throws him to the ground for some reason. And then that flips the script. And now he's just fighting to save his people and he's going to need Superman's help to do it. I'm like...
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And no, I didn't really think about that until you pointed it out.
Yeah,
thanks for that. But yeah, it's really stupid. It makes no sense because tying him into this alley plot line is dumb. It doesn't make any sense because like we said, he came originally from that cave.
Yeah,
he didn't come. How are you going to explain that? Oh, I'm guaranteeing you're not.
So here, no. I did come up with, like, because I think of these stupid things all the time, I did come up with one idea as to what's going on. So, he's Bizarro Superman. In his world, Ali Elston is taken over and basically subjugating all of the people of his world, right? He fights Ali and ends up taking the Bizarro Ali's amulet from her, right?
Okay.
And because he has that amulet, somehow the same way that that Ali's able to connect people to that mirror universe, he used that amulet to get into our dimension. Because it's not a universe, it's a dimension. Bizarre, he's from the mirror dimension of Earth.
Right.
So the what I'm thinking is he puts that thing on, and that's why Superman keeps seeing all of his visions, because that amulet from her world connects Bizarro's to our dimensions versions of themselves. That's why he's seeing him. That's why that's going back and forth like that. So with that being the case, if he can destroy Ali's, he can't seem to destroy his amulet. If he can destroy her amulet, then they break the connection. Or if the two amulets come together, maybe they will be destroyed, and that will separate the two dimensions and save his world from Ali Elston, who's obviously gaining power because she's doing stuff into this dimension. So that's my idea behind that. So I'm figuring the two amulets have something to do with why he was brought to this world, but it doesn't make any sense as to why he was brought to this world, thousands of feet underground and had to dig his way out kind of situation. I don't know where that comes from, but that's my theory as to why Superman and him why they're seeing each other's visions is because that's what Ali does. Like, she feeds off of that. And because she knows that in her world she's taken over, she's trying to do the same thing here, but she's doing it in the form of a cult because she doesn't have the powers that her alternate self has. So, yeah, it's a whole big crazy racket.
It sounds like a convoluted mess.
It does, like. But in my head, that's the two things that kind of connected together, and that would explain why he's seeing all of his visions and vice versa. Is because that's literally what Ali's doing to people when she puts that pendant on them and basically drugs them to sleep and kills them. Is while they're in that in between state of life and death, that amulet is connecting them with their Bizarro self and allowing them to see that world. If they manage to come back to the light, which is basically playing off of that whole don't go into the light. If they go away from the light, that separates them from their their Bizarro world self, and then they survive. But now they believe in what Ali's saying, and that's how she sucks them in. Chrissy, who's not normally the smartest bulb in the box, is apparently aware enough to understand that that's what's going on. A light bulb. Smart. You know, whenever you have a good idea, a light bulb pops up.
It's actually the brightest bulb box.
Isn't that what I said?
But no, you said smartest.
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah.
Well, with that, we are going to end this episode. We do want to thank you for watching. And please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that bell for notifications. On behalf of Vic.
That's me.
That way. I'm Corey. Thanks for watching. And we'll talk to you next time.
See ya!